State your occupation, the judge muttered, his lips curled upward like he'd already decided the punchline. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Barlow Innovations, I answered firmly, my palms damp against the wooden rail. A chuckle slipped from his throat, sharp and deliberate. A CEO? You? Don't waste this court's time with fantasies. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. A woman near the back whispered, She's exaggerating. Another voice cut in, low and cruel. CEO of what? A corner store? Their laughter pressed. Against my chest. My heart pounded, not from shame but from the weight of their silence, their comfort in watching me shrink. I straightened my spine. Your Honor, I said, steady, though my throat burned. I built my company from nothing. That fact won't vanish because you sneer. The smirk on his face deepened. He tapped his gavel against the desk, not in order but in mock rhythm, like he was keeping beat to my humiliation. Ambition is admirable, he said with forced calm. But titles don't make reality. Let's return to serious matters. Gasps, small laughs, eyes avoiding mine. Not one objection, not one voice raised in defense. Even my own lawyer fixed his gaze on his papers, pretending not to hear. I turned toward him, whispering through clenched teeth. Why aren't you saying anything? He cleared his throat, muttering without looking up. Don't antagonize him. It'll only get worse. My jaw tightened. My skin felt like it was on fire, but my voice remained calm. It is worse already. A man from the gallery leaned forward, muttering loud enough for others to hear, pretending to be something she's not. A snicker followed. My nails dug into the wood. I wanted to scream, to throw their words back, but I forced my breath into silence. Dignity demanded it. The judge leaned forward, his voice laced with false authority. You may imagine yourself a leader, but in this court you are simply a defendant. Remember your place. My stomach twisted. For a moment, I saw the years of nights I spent drafting proposals under dim light, the sweat of raising capital, the sacrifices that built my company brick by brick. Yet none of it mattered here. Not to him, not to them. I raised my chin. My place, Your Honor, is where truth stands, and truth doesn't bow to mockery. A hush fell. His eyes flickered just briefly, as if my words pierced the theater he was staging. But then his smirk returned. We'll see about that, he muttered, shifting his papers. Behind me, whispers buzzed again. She talks big. Arrogant. Doesn't know when to stop. Each word clung to me like smoke, but I held my breath, refusing to choke. The judge banged his gavel sharply. Order! We'll reconvene after recess. He stood, robe swaying, and left the room as laughter trailed behind him. I remained frozen, fists clenched, nails biting into my palms. My lawyer leaned closer, whispering with irritation, You need to calm down. I turned to him, my voice low, trembling with both fury and restraint. Calm is the only reason I'm still standing. As the room emptied, I looked at the empty benches, the eyes that had looked away, the smirks that lingered too long. I felt the silence of allies who chose comfort over courage, and I knew something inside me had shifted. That night would mark a line no gavel could erase. Their comfort ends where my dignity begins. The hallway hummed with footsteps, shuffling papers, and voices lowered just enough so I couldn't quite catch them. Except when they wanted me to. She should have just let it go. Why push back? It only makes it worse. I turned my head. My colleagues shifted their eyes away, suddenly busy with phones and folders. My chest tightened. Their silence in the courtroom was now dressed in whispers outside it. I stopped near the benches, my voice cutting through their mutters. You heard him laugh at me. You heard him mock everything I've worked for, and none of you spoke. One man cleared his throat, eyes glued to the floor. We didn't want to make it worse. I let the words hang, sharp as broken glass. Worse than sitting in a room where a judge makes me into a joke? He fumbled, whispering, "It's complicated." "No," I snapped, my fists trembling at my sides. "It's convenient." Their faces blurred into a wall of silence. A woman muttered, "Just focus on the case. Don't get distracted." She hugged her binder like it might shield her from my eyes. I turned from them, each step heavy, my heels striking the tiles like a drumbeat of betrayal. My lawyer trailed behind me. When we reached the stairwell, I stopped and spun toward him. When he mocked me, "Where was your objection?" He shifted uncomfortably, tugging at his collar. "It's politics," he murmured. "Best to endure." "These judges, they don't like being challenged." "Endure?" My voice cracked, raw. "Do you know how many years I've endured? How many rooms I've sat in, smiling politely while they measured me against their idea of impossible?" He looked down at his shoes. "I'm just trying to protect the case." My throat burned. "You weren't protecting the case. You were protecting yourself from discomfort." He raised his hands, weak defense. "If I'd spoken, it might have backfired. You don't understand the risk." "I understand it too well." My words sliced through his excuses. "Every risk falls on me, my company, my name, my skin. You get to play safe. I get to bleed." He sighed, muttered, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I laughed, bitter and hollow. "Harder? You watched him strip my dignity in front of strangers, and you call me harder?" For a moment, his lips parted like he wanted to apologize, but nothing came. He dropped his gaze, silent again. Silence. That was always the weapon. Not slurs, not screams, silence that wrapped around me, pressing down, suffocating. I gripped the railing, the cold metal biting my palm. Images flashed. Nights I worked until dawn, deals fought tooth and nail, the first time I signed a contract with my company's name across the top. Every memory stood beside me, screaming that I was more than their smirks, yet none of it had found a defender in that courtroom. I whispered, more to myself than him, "If dignity is a risk, then I'll take it. Alone, if I have to." He shifted, his briefcase mumbling, "Don't be rash." I stepped closer, my voice low, steady, cutting. "Rash is pretending silence keeps me safe. Rash is thinking humiliation is less dangerous than honesty." He blinked, eyes flickering with something. Fear, maybe shame, but he said nothing. I turned toward the exit. Behind me, the whispers of colleagues faded into the stale air of the courthouse. I felt their betrayal not as knives, but as a quiet desertion, like watching doors close one by one until only my shadow remained. At the threshold, I paused. My reflection in the glass door stared back at me, tired eyes, clenched jaw. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize the person holding herself upright with nothing but sheer will. I pressed my palm against the cool glass. The silence around. Me wasn't absence. It was clarity. If no one would speak for me, then my voice would have to be enough. And for the first time, I believed it could be. The clock glowed past midnight. I sat in the dark, the courtroom still echoing in my skull. The judge's smirk, the whispers, the silence of people who swore they were allies. My phone vibrated against the table, and I pressed it to my ear before the sound could break the heavy quiet. "You're still awake," my friend murmured. "I can't sleep," I whispered back, my voice cracked raw. They laughed at me like I was a child pretending. Like all my years, all my sweat, all my sacrifices were some kind of game. A pause, then her soft exhale. "Tell me." I stood there and he mocked me, called me a fantasy. And the room... My throat tightened. They laughed with him. Do you know what it feels like to be reduced to a joke in a place where justice is supposed to live? Her voice held no hesitation. "Yes, I know. And I know you survived it." "I don't want to survive it," I snapped, my hand trembling against the phone. "I wanted one voice, just one, to stand up. My lawyer, silent. My colleagues, silent. And me? I was alone. You weren't weak, she whispered. I was humiliated. I pressed my forehead to my fist. I wanted to scream, to break something, to demand the dignity they stole from me. But I stood there holding my tongue, choking on the fire in my chest. The silence on her end stretched long enough for me to hear my own uneven breathing. Then her words cut through, calm but sharp. Listen to me. Dignity isn't theirs to give, it's yours to wield. I blinked hard, tears spilling before I could stop them. It doesn't feel that way. In that room, it felt like everything I'd built could be laughed out of existence. Let them laugh, she said firmly. Every empire has been mocked, before it was feared. Their laughter isn't truth. It's fear hiding behind noise. I bit my lip, the words sinking deeper than I wanted to admit. Then why does it still burn like a wound? Because wounds remind you that you're alive, she murmured, and you're still standing. That means the fight isn't over. I swallowed hard, my body shaking, half from rage, half from exhaustion. What if the fight breaks me? What if the fight makes you? The line went quiet, her words hanging like a mirror I couldn't turn away from. I whispered, almost to myself. He wanted me to bow, to sit in silence, to play small. And what did you do? I told him truth doesn't bow to mockery. Her laugh was low, proud. Then you've already won the first battle. I leaned back, closing my eyes, her voice weaving through the darkness. You are not the sum of their silence. You are the voice they can't erase. So ask yourself, what will you do with it? I gripped the phone tighter. My chest steadied. The rage that had been a wildfire began to burn into something cleaner, sharper. Not chaos. Resolve. I won't wait for them to speak for me, I muttered. I'll make them hear me. Every word, every truth. Good, she whispered. Let tomorrow fear you. I exhaled, long and trembling. For the first time that night, I wasn't choking on silence. I was breathing it in, turning it into fuel. The line went quiet again, but I didn't need more words. I had my vow. Tomorrow, the fight would no longer be about survival. It would be about reclamation, and I would not bend. The gavel cracked like a warning shot. I rose to my feet, every muscle taut, every breath sharpened into resolve. The judge leaned back, smirking. So, he drawled, his voice thick with derision, you expect this court to bow to your empire? A chuckle rolled across the benches. My stomach twisted, but I kept my eyes locked on him. Not bow, I answered, my tone even, deliberate. Just acknowledge the truth you've worked so hard to bury. The stenographer's keys clacked nervously. Someone in the gallery muttered, she's pushing too far. The judge's smirk widened. Truth? Titles and delusions don't make truth. You should know better than to puff yourself up in my courtroom. Heat surged in my chest, but I forced my voice to remain steady. You want me small. You want me quiet, but you can't erase what I built. You can only mock it, and mockery has never been justice. A hush rippled. Heads shifted, eyes darting between us. The judge tapped the gavel, once, twice. Control yourself. This isn't a stage for your speeches. I leaned forward, my hands gripping the wood rail until it bit into my skin. No. This is the place where truth should matter most, and you've turned it into theater. Gasps. A cough from the back row. Someone whispered, she's right. Another hissed back, careful. The judge's face reddened. You're dangerously close to contempt. Contempt? My laugh cut sharp through the silence. I sat here while you laughed at me, stripped my dignity in front of strangers, and no one dared object. If contempt means refusing to swallow that again, then yes, I am contempt. The room stilled. Even the stenographer paused, her fingers hovering above the keys. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You think yourself untouchable because you parade around with that title? Because you claim an empire that no one here has seen proof of? My jaw clenched. You don't want proof. You want erasure. You want me invisible, so your smirk stays unchallenged. For a beat, the courtroom was breathless. Murmurs flickered, again sharper this time, uneasy, unsettled. You do well to remember where you stand, he snapped, his voice breaking slightly. I straightened, my chin high. I remember exactly where I stand. In a court that should defend dignity, not destroy it. And if my presence unsettles you, maybe it's because dignity has finally spoken back. The silence that followed was heavier than any gavel strike. His lips pressed thin, his hand tightening around the handle of his chair. Someone near the aisle muttered under their breath, "She's not wrong." The judge banged the gavel harder than before. "Order!" The echo rang hollow. I didn't move, didn't blink. My pulse thundered, but my voice remained calm. Your robe doesn't make you right, and your laughter doesn't make me small. It only makes your fear louder. The murmur turned into a low rumble, shifting from mockery into something else. Unrest. He froze, eyes darting at the gallery, then back to me. For the first time, his smirk faltered, and in that falter, I felt the shift. The laughter that once pressed against my chest was gone. Now the weight pressed against his. The silence belonged to me. The courthouse steps burned under the glare of cameras. Microphones shoved toward me like spears, voices colliding in a wall of noise. Isn't it true you falsified your background? One reporter barked, eyes narrowed, hungry for blood. I inhaled, fighting the tremor in my chest. My record is public. Anyone can read it. But ask yourself why lies spread so easily when my skin color fits the story. A ripple of murmurs ran through the crowd. Some nodded, others smirked. Another voice pierced through. Critics say you inflated your company's success, that you play the victim for sympathy. My fists clenched at my sides. I don't need sympathy. I have contracts, patents, payrolls, and teams to prove my work. What I need, what I demand, is honesty. Defensive, a man muttered, always making it about race. The words stabbed sharper than the microphones. My stomach twisted, but I raised my chin. If you think race has nothing to do with why I'm doubted, you haven't been paying attention. Behind them, I caught sight of colleagues, faces once familiar, now strangers in the crowd. Their whispers cut through the noise. She's ruining herself. She should have stayed quiet. I turned on them, fury trembling in my throat. You think silence keeps you safe? You sat beside me when the judge mocked me and said nothing, and now you whisper like cowards outside these walls? One of them fumbled, his eyes darting to the ground. We didn't want to make it worse. Worse? My laugh came out cracked, bitter. Worse than letting a man laugh me out of my own name? Another muttered, You're making too much of this. Before I could spit the rage burning in my chest, my friend's voice cut in, sharp as a blade. You never doubted her when she was signing your paychecks. You never called her a liar when her company carried you. But the moment the ground shakes, you scatter like mice. The group stiffened. One snapped back, This isn't about loyalty, it's about survival. And whose survival do you mean? I muttered, my voice low. Because you're willing to bury mine. The reporters scribbled furiously, lenses flashing. A younger journalist stepped forward, her voice hesitant. If you could tell the public one thing, one truth they should hear, what would it be? I stared at her, the betrayal of colleagues and the sting of rumors pressing heavy in my chest. My voice trembled but didn't break. Hear this. I don't need you to believe in me to make me real. I don't need your approval to prove my worth. All I ask is that the truth matter as much for me as it does for anyone else. And if that threatens you, good. The silence that followed felt different this time. Not victory, not yet, but a fracture in the wall of disbelief. My friend touched my arm, whispering, "They'll twist every word." "I know," I muttered, steady now. "Let them. Smoke can cloud the air, but it can't shatter stone." And as the microphone surged closer again, I felt the shift. Their whispers no longer defined me. Their betrayal no longer silenced me. If they wanted a fight, I would give them one. On my terms, in my voice. And this time, I would not bow. The gavel struck, the echo biting into my chest. I rose again, steady though my pulse thundered. The judge leaned forward, smirk curling his lip. "Your story," he chuckled, eyes scanning the gallery, "would impress children, not this court." Laughter trickled through the benches. My stomach knotted, but my voice didn't waver. "It's easier to laugh than to face what threatens your comfort." He tilted his head, mocking. "Comfort? You think this is about comfort? No, this is about delusion. You've woven yourself a crown. But here," he tapped his gavel, sharp and smug, "you're no queen. You're just another defendant, begging to be believed." The words pierced, but I forced them into fuel. "I'm not begging, I'm standing, and every laugh you've thrown at me only proves you're afraid of what I carry." Gasps. Uneasy murmurs. The air thickened. The judge's laugh cracked louder. "Afraid? No one here fears you? They pity you?" I clenched the rail so tightly the wood dug into my palms. My breath trembled. I opened my mouth. The heavy doors swung open. Boots struck the marble floor, steady, measured. The air shifted instantly, the sound slicing through whispers and laughter alike. Heads turned. I froze, my chest tightening. 3 FBI agents stepped, forward, their presence so controlled it bent the room around them. The crowd went silent, the smirks draining from faces. The lead agent's gaze locked on me. He stopped, squared his shoulders, and in a voice firm but respectful asked, "Ma'am, with your permission." Then his hand rose. "Salute." Gasps exploded around the room. A woman's voice whispered, trembling, "She's working with them?" Another hissed, "What is happening?" The judge's gavel slipped in his hand, the sound hollow as it tapped uselessly against the desk. His smirk cracked, eyes darting between me and the agents. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. For the first time, the silence pressed against him, not me. "Agents, this is irregular," the judge stammered, his voice shaking. The lead agent turned his head slowly, his tone cutting through like steel. "No, Your Honor, this is overdue respect." Murmurs surged, frantic now. "Overdue respect? What is she to them? This doesn't make sense." The judge's face blanched. He tried to laugh again, but it came out strangled. "You can't. This isn't protocol." The second agent spoke, his voice calm, commanding. "Protocol is recognizing service. Protocol is honoring sacrifice." The words echoed. Honor. Sacrifice. My chest swelled, my hands trembling as I held their gaze. Every smirk, every whisper, every silence in this courtroom cracked open in that instant. The lead agent turned back to me, voice steady. "Ma'am, we stand with you." The silence that followed was heavier than any insult, sharper than any gavel. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, their certainty unraveling. I whispered, my voice carrying in the stillness. "You laughed at my title, Your Honor, but they don't salute a title. They salute the truth you tried to erase." The judge's jaw tightened, his eyes flickering with something raw. Panic. The gallery erupted in whispers, disbelief spilling over. "This changes everything." "She's not lying." "What has he done?" I looked at the judge, his hands trembling on the desk, and for the first time, it wasn't me drowning under silence. It was him. The balance had shifted, and the silence belonged to me. The judge's gavel trembled against the desk, a hollow clack instead of a command. His voice broke, stuttering as his eyes darted between the agents and me. This is irregular. Completely irregular. The lead agent's voice cut clean through the air, calm but sharp enough to wound. No, this is overdue respect. Murmur surged through the gallery, restless, uneasy. The stenographer's hands hovered in midair, as if even the record needed permission to breathe. The judge's face flushed red. He tried to clear his throat, but the sound came out like a choke. You can't just storm into my courtroom undermining authority." The second agent stepped forward, his boots heavy against the marble. "Authority isn't undermined by truth, Your Honor. It's tested by it." Gasps, whispers. A voice near the back hissed, "She wasn't lying." Another whispered back, I told you. The judge pounded the gavel again, but his hand shook. "Order! I demand! Order!" I leaned forward, the rail cold beneath my palms. My words slipped out, quiet but steady. "You laughed at my title, mocked my name, tried to strip it away, yet they salute not a title, not a name, but the truth you tried to erase." The silence that followed was suffocating, for him. I could see it in the tightness of his jaw, the twitch in his fingers. For the first time, he was drowning where I had been forced to breathe. He snapped, voice cracking, "This is theater! These theatrics don't belong in my court." The lead agent didn't flinch. "No theatrics, Judge. Just recognition. Something you denied her when you turned her credentials into a punchline." The crowd shifted, murmurs swelling like a tide he couldn't command. "Punchline? He mocked her. I saw it." His eyes darted to the benches, panic flaring as control slipped from his grip. You're all being manipulated. Can't you see? She's spinning a web of lies, and these men are part of it." The third agent's voice boomed, firm and final. "We don't bend our knees to lies. We salute service. We salute sacrifice. And we salute her." Then all three raised their hands. The salute snapped through the silence like a thunderclap. The judge staggered back, his gavel falling from his grasp. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed like a verdict. I whispered, my voice shaking not from fear but release. "Your robe won't shield you from the truth. Not anymore." His lips trembled. You don't belong here." I lifted my chin. "I belong everywhere truth does, and truth has finally come for you." The gallery erupted. Gasps, murmurs, a few voices daring to say aloud what they had whispered for weeks. "She's right. He humiliated her. Now look at him." The judge's shoulders slumped, sweat beading on his forehead. His words faltered, stammering, This court will not be hijacked." "No," I cut in, my voice sharp, cutting across his. "It was already hijacked, the moment you traded dignity for mockery." His mouth opened, but no words came. The silence pinned him where he stood, and in that silence, I felt it, the collapse of arrogance. His smirk was gone, his laughter shattered, his gavel useless. The power that had once pressed against my chest now pressed against his, and this time, he had no defense. The gavel lay abandoned on the floor, a broken symbol of power that no longer belonged to him. The courtroom was hushed, the silence heavy, expectant. All eyes shifted to me. I drew in a breath. The weight of every humiliation, every whisper, every silence pressing against my ribs. My voice came out steady, though my hands trembled against the rail. "You never saw me as human," I said, each word cutting into the stillness. "But humanity doesn't wait for your permission." The gallery shifted uneasily. Someone exhaled, sharp. Another whispered, "She's right." The judge's face twitched. He tried to lift his chin, but his lips barely moved. This court is not your stage." My throat tightened, but I forced the words through, calm, deliberate. "It became a stage the moment you turned my dignity into a performance. You mocked me. You laughed at me. And when no one objected, Their silence told me what I already knew, that comfort matters more to them than justice. A woman in the gallery muttered, "I heard it. He did laugh." A man shushed her, but the ripple spread. I leaned forward, my voice trembling with both fury and clarity. "But I am not your joke. I am not your lie. I am not your victim. I am proof, living, breathing proof, that what you try to bury will rise, and it will rise louder than your gavel." The judge's hand pressed against his temple, sweat gleaming. You twist words!" "No," I snapped, my palm slamming against the rail. "I live them. You twist them. You twisted my work into fiction, my truth into fantasy, my title into a punchline. But tell me, Your Honor, who laughs now? Not me. Not them." Gasps fluttered across the room, eyes darted back to the agents. Still standing, their salutes lingering like a verdict no one could erase. I drew another breath, softer this time, letting the silence stretch before filling it. I carried their doubt for years. I carried their whispers, their smirks, their disbelief. But I will not carry their permission, not anymore. A single clap rang from the back. My head snapped toward it. One man standing, then another joined. Then another. The sound built, hesitant at first, then swelling until the gallery echoed with applause. The judge's eyes widened, his lips parting like he wanted to shout it down, but no words came. His jaw shook, his shoulders sagging beneath. The weight of silence turned against him. My lawyer, the one who had hidden behind papers, finally looked at me. His lips moved, barely audible. I should have spoken. I met his gaze, my chest aching. "You still can." But he dropped his eyes, shame pulling him down. The applause grew, some hesitant, some fierce, and I stood in the center of it, not as their symbol, not as their savior, but as myself. I turned back to the judge, my final words steady. "You wanted me small. You wanted me erased. But I am here, and the truth stands with me. No robe, no gavel, no laughter can silence that." His hands trembled, clutching the edge of his bench. He opened his mouth, but no sound came. His silence was louder than any verdict. The applause surged, filling the cracks of the courtroom that had once held only mockery, and I felt it, the catharsis I had clawed toward through fire and silence. Justice. Not in their verdicts, not in their papers, but in truth finally heard. The courthouse emptied long before my pulse settled. Applause had faded into echoes, the gavel into silence, the judge into shame. Now it was only me, alone with the weight of a day that had stripped me bare and remade me. I sat by the window, dusk bleeding its last light across the glass. My phone buzzed, soft in the quiet. I answered without a word. Her voice carried through, warm and steady. "You didn't just win a case, you drew a line." I let the silence stretch, the words sinking deep. My throat ached, but I managed. "Yes, their comfort ends where my dignity begins." She exhaled, a sound of relief and pride. "Do you feel it? The shift? It's not just them who saw it, it's you. You reclaimed yourself." I swallowed. Hard. For years I swallowed their smirks, their silence, their disbelief. I thought survival meant staying quiet. But survival is not the same as living. Today, I lived. The pause on her end was heavy with understanding. Then softly, "You reminded them you were never invisible." I pressed my palm to the glass, watching the fading sun paint the horizon. "I was invisible because they wanted me to be, but visibility isn't theirs to grant. It's mine to claim," she whispered. "You carried all their betrayal, and still you stood." My chest tightened, but it wasn't pain anymore. It was release. Yes, I stood. And when they laughed, I answered. When they doubted, I stood taller. And when the truth entered the room, it didn't bow to robes or gavels. It saluted. A tremor shook my voice, but I didn't hide it. Do you know how long I waited for that moment? To see silence turn against them instead of me? Her voice cracked, just slightly. Too long, I closed my eyes, the words filling the quiet dusk. But not forever. The line stayed open, her breathing steady on the other end, mine ragged but calm. For once, I didn't need more words. The day had spoken enough. I lowered the phone, whispering to the night itself. They'll remember the laughter. They'll remember the silence. But most of all, they'll remember the line I drew. The last light sank beneath the horizon. My reflection in the glass stared back, tired, scarred, but unbroken, and for the first time in too long, I felt whole.